Tuesday, the 22nd. Is that correct? No, Tuesday, the 21st. I'm a day ahead of myself. And today we are making my favorite vegetable soup recipe. And we're going to do a sweet treat. The sweet treat will be based on the fact that it is, believe it or not, it is National Chocolate Covered Cashew Day. So we're going to make some chocolate covered cashews. We're going to do it in a very easy way. Honestly, a way I think anybody can do that. So, but we're going to start with this vegetable soup because it takes a while to put together, and we're going to put it together. So I need to grab out a bowl to put some of my veggies in as I go through here. I don't need one that big, but we're going to start with some celery and onions. And let's see here. So I've got my celery right here. We've used this several times. Hey, Ella, I was hoping you would be here today. So I'm so excited that you're back. Let's see. Nope, not 4 minutes left. I'm getting started right now. Thank you for saying that. All right. Yes, as a matter of fact, Ella, I do remember you, and I'm glad you're here because you mentioned me making a jelly cake. And I said I would have to look up what that was and make sure I knew what it was. And I did. I researched jelly cakes. And tomorrow in the United States is National Jelly Bean Day, believe it or not. And there's not much you can do with jelly beans. So I have decided that I'm going to make you a jelly cake tomorrow. We are, or what I think you guys call a jelly cake. I think I've got it right. So I am going to run out and get myself some strawberries this evening, and I'm going to make you a strawberry jelly cake. How's that sound? So while we're doing this, while we're talking about that, I'm going to start chopping up what's left of my celery. So there you go. I won't be able to share it with you physically, but I'm going to make you a jelly cake tomorrow. All right. I was going to try to put it in on Thursday, but trying to add one more thing to what I was already going to do on Thursday, which is going to have to pare it down as it is. So I'm excited. I'm excited that we're going to try this tomorrow. So cool. That's awesome. It's always fun to try new things. Now, because of where I live and how I eat, okay, I'm going to do something real quick. I'm usually a little further away from my pots and pans. I moved it over here because my day has been very good. I'll tell you about it in just a minute. But I normally put the cooking stuff right in here, but this is very shiny. So if I were to put that in front, you would be distracted because you would see how our camera setup is. So we are trying to minimize that kind of distraction for you guys. But so anyway, my day has been interesting. I realized this weekend that I had not renewed my license plates for my car. And in the US, or at least in most places in the US, that renews on your birthday. And so even though technically they're done until the end of the month, they're good until the end of the month because this was my birthday month. But if they pull you over, if somebody wants to be a stickler about it, they can. So I went and did that first thing this morning, had to go to the bank and use the ATM to get some money out. And then I met someone very special to me for breakfast. And we had a very long breakfast, which was all great, but then that put me a little bit behind on everything else. So, which, thank goodness, I have a nice, easy dinner for tonight. And I'll explain when I am making something else, another part of the soup, what I'm going to be doing for dinner. The boys, oh yeah, well, boys tend to be naughty. So much drama. Well, now see, I raised 3 boys. who were not too much into drama. As a matter of fact, they would avoid drama at all costs. Now, they were involved in some, but fortunately it was minimal. So we've always said, my husband is a type 1 diabetic, and one of my sons has a pituitary disorder. And so we always say we don't have a lot of made up drama in our house because we've had enough real life drama that we don't need to make any up. So that has always been kind of the mantra of the house. No made up drama. So we have avoided a lot of that. So, oh goodness gracious. So anyway, usually I start my soup with carrots, celery, and onions, but I forgot I used up all my regular carrots with my soup that I made yesterday, the bean soup. And so I don't have any just raw carrots. That'll definitely go on the grocery list for next week because it's rare that I don't have carrots sitting around. Just because a lot of things that I make start with carrots, onions, and celery. That's my mirepoix, my sofrito, whatever you want to call it. But it's just a good base for a lot of things that I make. So well, I will tell you, 7-year-old brothers, whether they have ADHD or not, can be very annoying. So there is a, and also I think everybody has ages that they like, and everybody has ages that they struggle with. So I tend to like kids when other people think they're the hardest to deal with. I like them at those ages. I used to be a coach, and I coached kids the 9 and 10-year-old range is difficult for me. So the kind of not quite of they aren't sure. A lot of kids that are 9 and 10 aren't sure whether they're still a child or whether they want to be a teenager, or some act more grown up than they are and some act less grown up than they are. And so I don't know, that was a struggle time for me from 9 to 11. Everything seemed to even out after that. I think once I got to junior high here in the US, things got a little easier. They started finding their way more. So, ooh, you know what? Your dream can come true, for sure. You can be a baker no matter what. Oh my goodness. My dogs are going crazy. I don't know why. Wonder if there's oh, okay. It's the mail lady. They're all going crazy. All the dogs are out. We have a lot of dogs in the neighborhood. And so my neighbor over here has 2 dogs. We've got 2 dogs, and she's got 2 dogs. So when they're all out at the same time, they all go a little crazy when the mail person comes. So what is I think you might have told me this yesterday, but I'm sorry if I forgot. So Ella, what's your favorite thing to bake? Do you have a favorite thing yet? So that was our celery. I'm going to do an onion now. And one of the things that I do when I'm cooking a lot of times is I just get a big bowl out, and rather than walking over to the garbage every time, I just have the bowl there for all the stuff that'll eventually end up in the trash. So but I started baking, and My mother was not someone who baked very much. She would only bake like one thing at Christmas time. So we didn't grow up with a lot of baked goods, which is interesting because then my brother and I both got to the point we uh, where we baked a lot. Both of us did, and I stopped baking as much when I went gluten free. And now one of my favorite things to do is to make treats that are naturally gluten free. And there's a lot of really good ones out of there. I learned how to make, we call them macarons, or I call them macarons. I learned how to make those. Haven't made them in a while, but I love chocolate truffles, so I make those. I have a really good recipe for a chocolate raspberry truffle that they're so good. Um, that's one of my favorites to make. I make those during the holidays, and I give those away as gifts as well. So, well, that's right. You mentioned the pancakes, and here's a funny one. In the U.S., the word pancake is interchangeable with flapjack. And the first time I was watching Bake Off, and they're like, "You're going to make flapjacks," and I was like, "That's not hard." And then I found out what flapjacks are in Britain. So a very different thing. So that was funny. Again, this is why I love learning about other cultures, because you learn all these things and you learn these words that we all sometimes use very differently. So, oh, your mom's gluten free. Okay. A potato and pecan pie. I love it. Pecan pie, right? If you're from Texas, is it a pecan pie? So, where I'm from, a lot of times it's a pecan pie. But from the South, a lot of people in the South say pecan instead of pecan. So, and you know what? You do you. Whatever you want to bake. If you're not a baker, that's fine. But ooh, sour cream cake. Now, I used to make with my husband, my mother-in-law, when she was alive, her favorite coffee cake was a sour cream coffee cake. And she just loved that. And we had a recipe for that. Um, but I have not made a gluten-free sour cream cake, but I imagine that's really good because yesterday I made pineapple upside down cupcakes. And if you were watching yesterday, I know Ella was. I forgot an ingredient in my cupcakes, and which cracks me up now, um, because it was brown sugar, so there was no caramelization on the bottom. So way to go me for that. Turn this way down, and I'm gonna get this started. Set the lid aside. Um, that hamster is causing a lot of problems, girlfriend. Um, Allie, I'm assuming it's Allie. I love vegetable soup too. Today we're going to do stew meat, which is my favorite, and absolutely we will be cutting cabbage in. Um, so I'm starting out with some celery and onions. I'm going to put some oil into the pan. We'll wait for that to get shimmery before we toss that in there. And while we're waiting for that, I am going to grab a turnip. And yes, it looks a little dry because it's been sitting here for a couple of days, but it'll still be fine. Fun fact, when you when you refrigerate potatoes, if you've done it, you know they can get kind of I call it that refrigerated taste, where they taste kind of funny. But if you switch out your potatoes for a turnip, nobody knows the difference. I've never had anybody go, "Is this turnip?" but they maintain their integrity so much better. They're so much firmer, but still have that like potatoey texture, if that makes sense, once they've been in the soup for a while. So I did this, I forget when I did this, but I did it years ago for the first time, and I fed some very picky eaters, and they didn't even notice. So um, I've been doing it ever since. It just is easier. Plus, once I started eating lower carb for my health, um, it all just got, it, turnips are a much lower carb vegetable than potatoes. And look, I don't villainize potatoes. I love potatoes. But for some things, I have to switch out for something else now. And that's just my own personal thing. If you like potatoes, put the potatoes in. I'm not here. I'm more along the lines, I don't know if anybody follows the Barefoot Neighbor, but he's like, you do you. And I'm very much the same way. So oh, it's Andra. Okay. Awesome. Oh, Andra, sorry. I just realized who it is. Andra's a friend of mine. Um, that's funny. Oh, goodness me. So sometimes I'm somewhere off in my own world, I think. But Andra and I have known each other for a very long time. So I just spaced that was her. So, and it's probably because I knew her under a different name. So, which is fine. But anyway, so there's our turnip peeled. We'll get those in there. I'm not quite. We're not quite shimmery yet. I don't have it really high anyway. I don't want to have to rush through this, which if I turn it up, I will. So, thank you. My hair's a little wild today. Um, my hair does its own thing. So, we came to peace with that, with the hair thing, because I had to. Um, I just had to let it go. I always say I fought nature for entirely too long, and now I don't fight nature anymore. I just let it do its thing, and it's much less frustration in my life. So, the one thing about turnips, though, is they are quite a firm vegetable. So, make sure you have a nice, good, sharp knife when you are cutting them up. Cut them into little bite-sized pieces. I kind of got in the habit of dicing things up small when my kids were little, because I didn't want to have to prepare their food after I prepared the food. So I learned to start cutting things up into very small bites, and I've just kind of kept with that ever since. So oh, the best dish I ever did. That's interesting. If you ask me versus my family, I think this is one of my best dishes, to be honest. I think I make a really good soup. My family aren't big on soup. They think I say that, but they think, and then you can decide whether you think it's a soup or not. My family really likes my chili. I also have a really good lasagna recipe. I don't make it very often, much to the sadness of my youngest because he loves lasagna, but it is a 2 to 3 hour preparation and requires a lot of time. It's a little fiddly, and I can't eat wheat anymore, so I have to use gluten-free noodles, which they're never really the happiest about. But they're getting better. Gluten-free noodles are getting so much better. I think we're finally at time here. Yep. Okay, so we're gonna pop the onions and the celery in here. Let them start to. We're gonna have some rocking and rolling here today. I had one yesterday that had a round bottom on it. I didn't realize this one did too. They're so old. I've had them for forever. All right, settle down. So, I'm I make a really good chocolate mousse as well. Let's see, what else do I make? Oh, one of Andrew's favorites, my friend. Um, Goodness gracious. I make really good deviled eggs. They're my dad's recipe. Um, and I like to think he'd be proud of me for how I've upgraded the recipe. It used to take him 3 hours to make deviled eggs. It takes me an hour because I use my Instant Pot, so I cook the eggs faster, and I use a. You need to settle down here. Um, but I use my Instant Pot and I use a decorator bag, and that decorator bag is that speeds things up big time. So, um, yeah, a good gluten-free bread. Well, I do not know what's going on with this thing. That is bizarre. See if I turn it, maybe. Um, Once I get all the stuff in it, it'll be so heavy it won't do that anymore, I think. Um, but yeah, my deviled eggs are pretty good. So, good gluten-free bread. That's what we were talking about. Okay. This is hilarious, you guys. Um, I have never found a gluten-free bread in the store that I like, to be honest. I think my next thing to try, if I'm going to try something with gluten-free bread, is to like buy frozen gluten-free bread dough and see if that can be better. The other thing is, all right, now you're just starting to annoy me. I found we have a local baker who does sourdough, and it's so good. And I don't eat enough bread to worry about it. So I am truly, I say this truly, that I would just rather buy it from her. And she's at a lot of the local markets. And so I will buy her bread and then I freeze it. And I use hers. And it's expensive, but I don't eat bread every day anymore. So that's really, I know a lot of people like, what is it, Canyon House? I still think it's okay, but not great. This down. I'm gonna chop up this celery or cabbage, and once I do that, then I'll add in some garlic, and we'll start building this up a little bit more. Um, and hopefully that will quit doing that. Oh, sometimes you just gotta laugh. And I don't know if you guys can see what it's doing, but it's like rocking and rolling here. Hi, Christy. Welcome back. How many? All right. Full transparency. There are only 3 people in this house, but I love to make this soup. And I make it about once a quarter, and it lasts us for months, to be honest. So I don't mind taking all this time to make it when it's like that, because I then freeze them in individual containers, and I use a printer, a labeler, to put what it is and the date that I made it. And like I said, I just finished the last one last week that I had. I made the original batch in January and froze it. So, um, okay, being persnickety. My lid doesn't want to come off. This is confit garlic that I'm mashed up, which I need to do again because I've got some garlic that's about to go bad. If you do have garlic that's, it's kind of late in the season for it. And yes, I like a lot of garlic. But if you put that in a really good olive oil, cover it with olive oil, and that's all you need. Some people throw rosemary in there. I don't feel the need. And you confit up the garlic. Not only do you get a beautiful garlic spread like that, you also get garlic oil on top of it. So you've got garlic upon garlic. The confit, if you put it in little jars like this, makes a great gift. I've given that out plenty of times. That's one of my favorite things to give. All right, I think yep, the garlic is blooming. So in goes the cabbage, or some of the cabbage. All right, you are really annoying me, dude. Hopefully as we weigh you down, you stop rocking and rolling here, or I'm going to have to get a new pot. And those are not cheap. Oh, goodness gracious. So, oh, there you go. Actually, I think I do have this recipe on my website. IT guy, can you look on my website and see if I have this recipe on there? And if I do, will you put the link in the chat? Please, if you can. So, I meant to look at that earlier today. We're learning how to automate things into chat. So, but this is one of my favorite cabbage soup, soup recipes to put cabbage in. I also like just a beef cabbage soup. We made recently an unstuffed cabbage roll soup. I thought it was terrific. My family was like, they were meh about it. I think we're used to things that were a little more seasoned than that. Again, I've never seen anything like this. It must be because of the hot plate. So I usually cook on gas. So this is goofy and slightly hilarious. And we're going to toss that in there. We're going to stir that up. Did I just toss something? I did. I just tossed cabbage in my hair. Well, there you go. I know. It's crazy, isn't it? Oh, my goodness. Oh, good luck, Andra. So, much love to you, too. Is it to Sheila? Yes. Okay. So, like I said, once we get it full of stuff, hopefully it'll stop doing that. It's not there? Possibly. So, but I actually don't have my vegetable soup recipe up. I will have it up in the next week. So if you want to check back by the end of the week with gluten-free from the 513, it will be on our blog. Let's see here. I'm going to try. All right. We're going to start building this up. So one of the things, obviously a good beef stock. My pot has too much caffeine. Could be. You never know. There you go. That'll settle you down, you little stinker. So, is that on the other one? Okay. I think I moved it over and I just haven't made it live yet, but I will. So, I will definitely look into that today. This is one of my secret ingredients. rather than using like tomato sauce, I use this. And it gives it such a nice flavor. Well, that settled it down a little bit. Hopefully this will settle it down some more. So, well, if you were here yesterday, Stephen, we made pounds upon pounds of beans. So, butter beans, lima beans, whatever you call them in your part of the world. This will also weigh it down. This is one of my secret ingredients too. These are beef marrow bones. Now, if you are vegetarian or vegan, I bless you. I do. Um, my body was not meant for that. As a matter of fact, when I actually had to start eating red meat again because my iron got so low when I stopped eating red meat that I had to add some red meat back into my diet. So, and I love chicken and I love turkey, and I understand if you're vegan, whether it's for health reasons, for personal reasons, I applaud you. And there's a part of me that wishes I could be. But I also know that, and people are like, you get used to it, you get used to it. And I will tell you, one year my husband and I, we um, we gave up red meat for Lent. I was not a nice person, and by the end, neither was he. We were just so tired and so grumpy. And that's, talking 42 days, friends, that's 7 weeks. My husband is home early. What the heck? Um, that's why my dogs are barking, by the way. Also, another one of my secret recipes. And again, since I know some of my people are in the UK, in the United States, Liam Perrin's Worcestershire sauce, or Worcester sauce, if depending on where you're from. I have a friend from Northern England, and he's like, it is Worcester sauce. And I'm like, okay, fine. But it's gluten-free here in the United States. So that is that's one of my secret ingredients. And it just, again, you can't taste it, but it gives it a depth of flavor. So, ooh. And then I do put a can of crushed tomatoes in there because it is a different flavor profile than the V8. It's got a little more body to it. But I like mine kind of tomatoey. And again, we just keep building and building and building. And that's also why the giant pot, because I have a pot that's a little bit smaller, but I think it would be right to the top if that was the case. Um, I hope my husband's home early because we won the lottery or something. I doubt it, but a girl can dream, right? Oh, goodness me. So there's that. There's that. Ah. So if you make soup, if you're willing to give it up, do you have like a secret ingredient in a soup that makes it really good? Because I think your secret ingredients can make or break. All right, yes, I put regular garlic in, but again, if you've watched me for very long, you know there's going to be a little garlic powder in there, and you know there's going to be a little onion powder in there. It's just what I do. And then at the end, I'll also put put a little cracked pepper in there, but I forgot to fill my pepper, so I'm going to have to do that. How long have I been gluten-free? I would say probably, I want to say it was before COVID. So probably 6, 7 years. Okay. So nobody yells at me. I know this is not gluten-free. Okay, it's not listed as gluten-free. So some of the flavorings might have some gluten in it. That said, if you are celiac, don't use this. But I am a non-celiac, gluten-sensitive person, and a dollop of this in my soup will not bother me. But again, gives it a depth of flavor. It is not enough to cause any kind of a reaction for me, and I consider myself very lucky for that. So that is... I get more sensitive, so there may come a time where I won't be able to use stuff like this anymore. I just recently, we ordered from a place that we've ordered from before. I'm not really worried about getting their fries. However, this last time I got their fries, I got really sick. And what I realized was, because it was the first Friday of Lent, they had probably used their fryer for a lot more shrimp and fish than normal. So there's probably a lot more wheat in the fryer, and I was miserable. Fortunately, I had just learned a trick that if you take activated charcoal tablets or capsules, in my case, it can help settle things out, and it helped a whole lot. And for a lot of people, unless you've been diagnosed celiac, it is that's the turnip, by the way, going in there. And then I have a question for you guys. If you know what this is, I would love to know what you call this where you're from, because I've heard it called a few different things where, yes, cross-contamination can be a big deal for a lot of people. As long as it isn't big, I've been okay in the past, but like I said, those fries, I will not be getting fries from there again for that reason. Where I live, this is called a rutabaga. It is a very hard root vegetable. Don't worry about this stuff on the bottom. It's got wax on it because it gets very it can go bad easily unless it's waxed. So, and yes, you can cut all these bad looking pieces off just like a potato. And as long as it's still orange inside, that orangey color, you're good. So I believe in some other countries. Yeah, see, I've heard it called a turnip, but I'm like, turnips to me are what I just put in there that are the white with the purple tops. The other thing I've heard it called in other countries is, I believe, but I've seen a turnip called a Swede. So I don't know if there's a difference, if it's just a cultural thing. And I peel these with a peeler because of the wax. So I don't want that wax all over my knife if I can avoid it. So, but this, it's really hard, but it gives your soup like a nice peppery taste. So I love them if I can find them. They're not always easy to find, to be honest. And they're usually pretty big. But I did see somebody the other day who made potatoes and this together, which I thought was interesting. And because it's such a hard root vegetable, they said when you cut and they called it a Swede. And they said, so when you cut your Swede, you cut it half the size of your potatoes so that they cook faster. So I thought that was interesting. But I think it's so interesting to learn about how people, we call things different things. We prepare them differently, and I think we can learn some things. I've learned how other things are prepared, and I've learned about ingredients from other countries, and I've incorporated some of those into my cooking. It's really cool, and it's really fun. One of the things I got from the UK was golden syrup. Oh my gosh, that stuff is good. It's such a nice... I've never been a big fan of honey, and Maple syrup makes it a lot of things taste like pancakes to me. Maple syrup's great, but just there's certain things I don't want that maple taste. And the golden syrup makes a great substitute for honey if you're not a big fan of honey. So, but when you cut a rutabaga, you get a workout. So anyway, now see, parsnips are shaped more like a carrot, and I'm not a fan of those. I don't know if there's a better way to cook them, but I'm not a fan. So I don't know why. It didn't, when I made them, they didn't taste good. I may not have made them well. I would be the first one to admit that maybe I didn't make them the best way they could be made either. So, but you can see how hard this is. It's almost like, it reminds me like of a really firm pumpkin or a really firm squash, how they can be really hard, like an acorn squash. Um, so yeah, so I guess we got turnip, we got rutabaga, we got parsnip. Who knows? But but they turn more orange in there, so they kind of look like a carrot. And again, nobody's going to know the difference. They really don't. Um, Most people think it's a carrot and just go with it. So, which is funny because if somebody would eat this, they would probably think, "Oh, there's a lot of carrot in there." But there's not. Don't you start again. But anyway, so these are, and the nice thing is, these are the kind of vegetables you can put them in there. They take up some space. Um, they extend the budget. I mean, other than the meat, I would say this might be $20, and it feeds, like I said, 3 months worth of like lovely lunches for me usually. Occasionally for dinner if I'm by myself. And I have a mini crock that I freeze them in these deli containers, and I use these deli containers over and over again. So I freeze about this much, and then this literally I can turn it over and it pops right into that little mini crock pot, and I can start it in the morning and have lovely, even if it's frozen, I can have a lovely little bowl of soup by lunch. So, oh, my nose itches. Um, but so tell me, whoever's out there, what is your favorite soup? Would love to know. I do love a good vegetable soup, but, or tell me the best soup you ever had. It may not be something that you eat a lot. The best soup I ever had, hands down, and the restaurant is gone, so I can't even get their recipe. Um, it was somewhere near my college. It was a restaurant called the Bryn Mawr, and I got to go there with a friend of mine when she graduated. Her family invited me to go to dinner with them. And they had a creamy vegetable soup. First time I ever had it. Not the only time I've ever had it, but the first time. And I would love to be able to recreate that soup, and I've never been able to. It was so good. And just, oh, it was so delicious. But that's the best soup I've ever had. Or tell me a soup you don't like. I would love that too. And I will tell you one I don't like. So if you're an East Coast person, I'm going to apologize right now. Um, I do not like clam chowder. Actually, most seafood soups I'm not a fan of. I don't know why. It's not. There is one that I've had, and I've made it myself, and I really, really like it. Um, Well, it's my family. You don't have to worry about it. So, um, and I wasn't on the inside. I was on the outside. So I'm not going to worry about it too much. And neither is my family. Like I said, I eat this soup more than they do. So I'm not going to worry about that either. So, stuffed pepper soup. That's a good one. Um, I could probably do that with like the lighter color peppers. Not a big fan of green peppers. Uh, they talk back, if you know what I mean. So not a fan that way. But almost done here with these, which will be great. And it does look like it's weighing it down. Helped it not to dance off the plate there. So now see, I would like that. Yeah, red peppers. I think that's great. Red peppers I can handle. Yellow. The green ones just don't sit well with me. Give that a stir. Oh, that looks so good. Okay. Currently the pot's about that full. So, next thing is the meat. Now, I am not going to put this all in here. Half of this is for the soup, half of it is for our dinner tonight, which I had talked about earlier. I don't know if Ella's still with us, but she was here when I said that when I got to the meat portion, that I would talk to you guys about that. I do stuff like that a lot, where I will, you buy in bulk, so you can pay less, and then I'll make a couple different meals out of it. Sometimes I'll leave it in there, but this has been in the refrigerator for a couple of days. So I want to make sure it all gets cut up, and I'll put half of it in, and I'll put half of it, excuse me. In the other half, we're going to have Korean beef and broccoli this evening. So I've got a nice recipe for that. I'll throw that in the Instant Pot so it won't take long. Otherwise, it would have been something I could have cooked all day. Again, if you've been around a while, you know I'm not a fan of touching raw meat. I don't know why. I'm just not. But since I've got all my vegetables cut up now that I need to cut, now I will start. That's a little big for me for eating. And yes, we're all adults here, so I don't have to cut those quite as small. I will cut a piece like that into like 4 pieces about that size. So those will just go right in there. This one's huge. So same thing. Just a few cuts to make them more bite-sized. And usually this is my husband's job. He's usually home with me when I'm making this. So he'll start on the meat while I start on all the vegetables. And usually by the time, because it does sometimes take a lot more, he's also more precise than I am. He's very good that way. He's methodical. I'm a little more fly by the seat of my pants, as you can probably tell by watching when I cook. We're nice mix. I always say he keeps me grounded, and I help him shake things up a little bit. So I'm the spice. I'm the variety in his life. So anyway, so yes, Andrew was asking before if I use ground beef. Usually I use stew meat. I like it that way. I do occasionally make a minestrone where I don't put any meat in it, or I only use a little beef stock. We do that all the time. So, getting this all bite size, which is loads of fun. This is like, everybody has like certain jobs that they like the least when they do stuff. Cutting the meat into bite-sized pieces, that's the thing I like the least. And like I said, my husband doesn't mind it. So he usually does that and I do the rest, which is, I miss him doing that for me. But anyway, um, I don't think it is chuck. I think it's just, I don't know, maybe it is, but it's just labeled stew meat. This is from Costco. So I'm not sure, but it kind of looks, it has the kind of marbling that chuck would have. So, but it doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't appear to be quite as fatty as a chuck roast. I don't know. Um, Sometimes when I get this stuff, it is rather fatty, and I'll skim some of the fat off the top when it's rendered out. So, um, welcome back, Ella. We were talking about you. I was just saying, I told you I would tell you when I got to the meat portion what we were having for dinner, and we are having Korean beef and broccoli. So, um, and if you were here yesterday, and I know a few of you were, I believe Christy was here, Ella had asked me to make a jelly cake, which I'll be honest with you, hadn't really I hadn't really thought of what that could be until I looked online, and then I went, oh my goodness, if you watch Bake Off, one of probably the most beautiful thing I've ever seen on that show was what they called a jelly cake. And it was made by a contestant who was originally from France. And what they make is, in the US, it would be considered jello. So they put it into a mold, but it's a single colored, like, it's usually a clear jelly, is what they call it. And then they make it out of gelatin, and then they inject different color gelatins into it to make an absolutely beautiful creation. And if you look up jelly cake, or you might have to do jelly cake, British jelly cake, it's the first thing that comes up is her creation. And I was like, well, there's no way I'm doing that. Well, then I found some simpler versions. So I am going to attempt a gluten-free jelly cake tomorrow. So I do already have gelatin, and I'm going to make an almond cake to make it gluten-free, and we're going to see how it goes. So I might have to run out and buy some pans. I don't have the right size pans for what the recipe calls for, so I might have to buy some cake pans, but my husband doesn't want to shoot me for that, or maybe I can borrow some from somebody. But anyway, so that's going to be tomorrow's thing. Yeah, I don't think it's round because there is more fat in there than a round usually has. But because I used to make round steak all the time, um, we made what I grew up calling Swiss steak. Uh, Again, this is one of those things like Swiss steak. Some people make Swiss steak with a red gravy, and some people make it with a brown gravy. I grew up with a red gravy on my Swiss steak, but I know other people who grew up with it being a brown type gravy. Uh, that was something else that I just made that is kind of it's a regional dish. I know it's made a lot in Pennsylvania, and it's also made in Ohio, and it's called city chicken or mock chicken. And it's called that because at one time, chicken was hard to come by in cities. It was more of a country thing. And people would make these skewers. And back in the day when I was a kid, um, those skewers were pork, beef, and veal. They are now pretty much all pork. You can order them from certain butcher shops that will, and butcher shops are still very much a thing where I live, but you can order them from the butcher shop. Some of them. You can still order the pork, beef, and veal, but most of us have adapted to the all pork. And when I looked online, when I was researching what other people were making, I was annoyed because, again, I was raised with it in a gravy and it didn't come in a gravy. And so I was like, oh no, I gotta do my version now because my version is different than everybody else's. Mine has a gravy. And so not only did I make it gluten free, but it's also gluten free with a gravy. So anywho, um, so Chrissy, did you say you're from Texas? Is that right? So give me something really Texas that you make that's really good if that's where you're from. Because most people I know in Texas can make a good barbecue, especially a good barbecue brisket. The best brisket I've ever had was in Texas. I'm trying to think what else. Ironically, the first time I ever had In-N-Out was in Texas. In-N-Out burger. My husband was staying, I think he was working in Plano, but his hotel that was near Plano, there was a In-N-Out literally across the parking lot. So you're in New Jersey. Okay. All right. So what have you got regional that you like? Even if you don't make it, what's your favorite regional dish in New Jersey? Because you guys have a lot of Italians in your area. I do know that. I will tell you what people from here that are from the East Coast, the two things they seem to miss the most when they come here, which as a gluten-free girly, this is funny to me. Um, Number one is a good bagel. They cry about the bagels here. And we do have a kosher bakery here that makes really good bagels. And people will tell you it's the closest you can get, but it still is not a New York bagel. Um, that's always a big one. Um, and I hope I don't mangle this too bad, but the other thing that everybody seems to like is that they miss is sfogliatelli, I think it's called, and they're beautiful. I've seen them made on. I am making vegetable soup right now, and then we're going to make a sweet treat. Today is National Chocolate Covered Cashew Day. So when I get done chopping up this meat, we're going to make that, and that's going to be a really quick treat. And I'm going to get my IT guy in to help me do that when it's time for that. Um, so I'm going to show you how quick it can be. So I'm just about done with how much we're going to need in there. I kind of eyeball it. So I need to go. I watch my carbs. So I add a little extra meat. I try to use. Oh, and I have one more thing that has to go in there that I almost forgot about. It's a controversial thing for some people. So okay. Oh, okay. So how do you prepare the pork? Is it like a cutlet that you would fry? Is that, or is it anything Italian and pork? Is that what you meant? Maybe I misread that. I misread the comma there. So all right. So you're 100% Italian. What's Oh, a pork roll? I've seen those made, but never made one myself. Okay. Interesting. I'll have, see, now I have these discussions and then I go in and I go down the rabbit hole looking at what things are. So, which is fun. I actually enjoy doing that, which is how I ended up doing cooking videos, is that I love talking food. I think food is, for a lot of people, food's a love language. I mean, if you're Italian, you know food's a love language, right? Um, if I love you, I cook for you. That's why nonas are so awesome, right? Nonas just love to cook for their people. And I think that's, for a lot of grandmas, I think that's a thing. No, that wasn't my mother. She did, she made one dish that, which is funny, my very German mother, her favorite thing that she made, um, oh, I did not know that, called Taylor ham. Interesting. Um, I have an aunt who passed away recently who was from Vietnam. And when she came here, two things that my aunt did, among other things, but two things she did extremely well were cook and sew. And she made fried rice when she first came here. And I'll be honest, she spoiled me for every other fried rice that came after. I still enjoy fried rice, but nobody's compares to her. And she took us to a restaurant one time. They lived in Illinois. And of course, she knew everybody in the Vietnamese community. A lot of the Vietnamese community members actually owned Chinese restaurants. They just called them Chinese restaurants, but then made their version of things because people were, for whatever reason, people were more likely to step into a Chinese restaurant than a Vietnamese back in the 70s. Um, and we know what the reason is, but let's just let that go. So anyway, uh, she took us to this restaurant and they made the same kind of fried rice, so it was delicious. But then for the very first time in my life, I had what they call sizzling rice soup. And oh my goodness, was that amazing. These are biodegradable, by the way. Easy for me to say, right? Um, and I have only twice in my life eaten to the point where I thought I was going to be sick. That was one. The second time was literally the next day when we ate the leftovers from this restaurant. It was so good. Like, you didn't stop eating until you were overly full and you thought you were going to be sick. It was wild, but so good. So good. And then my last ingredient for this lovely, although I will probably add, oh, nope, I have one more ingredient that I don't normally put in there, but I'll show you in a minute. Everybody has a different way of cutting up their kale, to be honest. And none of us like the stems. Some people cut them off. I've always found it easier just to pull it off like this. And then I chop up the leaves. But any way you can sneak some leafy greens in, you do it. And I bought this the other day and it was starting to get wilty. So I literally put it into a vase like flowers. And it's maintained its crunch. So I'm delighted about that. Um, so let me ask you, Christy, if you're still here, the pork roll, is that just a piece of pork that's rolled, or is it like a ground pork that you roll up? I would love to know. I mean, I can look it up if you don't want to. If you don't want to go into it, that's fine. Um, but it sounds delicious, and I've had like a beef roulade type thing that's Italian, and it was just stunning. Um, how that beef is that tender has always just kind of blown my mind. So, and I used to watch a couple, and I don't know if they're still on or not, but Nona Pia and Nona Gracie, they used to make these amazing dishes and just kind of blew me away. They were the cutest Nonas, and their grandsons were kind of highlighting them, mostly on Instagram. But they were awesome. And I don't know if they still are on there. I don't have as much time. Now that I'm on here, I don't have as much time. So, is it Pilar? Is that your name? So, if it is, welcome. If it's not, let me know if I messed it up or if you want to be called something else. So, um, oh, I don't say my name a lot, and there's a reason for that. Because I kind of feel like I have to apologize for it. Uh, Usually, when people ask what my name is, I will say, "Oh, my name is Karen." Unfortunate, I know. So I try not to earn the moniker, to be honest. I do my best not to be one, but yeah, it's hard to have that name these days. And I don't have another name that I've ever been called other than Mom, or well, Mom or Nana, and then there's one other name. When my youngest, who is now in his mid-20s, when he was little, my sister, my husband's sister, was introducing my then preschooler to her sister-in-law, a different on the other side, her husband's sister. And she said, she has the same name as your mom. And she said, do you know what your mom's name is? And he goes, Mommy. And she goes, no, no, no. What do people call her? And he goes, Mommy. And she goes, okay, what does Daddy call her? And he goes, oh, gorgeous. And it was lovely. It was like my sister-in-law was like, okay, I don't get left speechless very often, but that left her speechless, and they thought that was hilarious. So, and I said, well, he's right. That's what my husband calls me. So, anyway, oh, like a cold cut. Oh, that kind of pork roll. Oh, gotcha, gotcha. Okay. Oh, okay, got it. All right. Interesting. Yeah, we do a lot of lunch meat around here too. I mean, we were the original name of Cincinnati was Porkopolis. So it was a nickname that we had for a long time because we had so many uh, what do you call it, meat processing plants. Even back in like the 1800s, we did a lot of meat processing. And we still have a couple of them left. Hillshire Farms was based out of here, and Cons. Um, we have a couple others that I think have since gone by the wayside, but we had a lot of meat processing that went on here, particularly pork and some beef. So, but then a lot of the stockyards moved up to Chicago way. So we lost some of that business. Um, big on we were big on that kind of stuff. But that and soap, the Procter and Gamble company has been here since their inception, and they're still here. Their headquarters are still here. We get a lot of people internationally that move here because of Procter and Gamble. So that's been, and we live in an area where a lot of those people live. So anyway, so there we go. All right. And we need more salt, if you will. It's very thick. It's more like a stew right now, and I want it to be more like a soup. So I normally do one of the large ones. These are 60. The big ones are 64 ounces. These are 46, so they're a lot smaller. So this is going to be a little more tomatoey than it normally is. Now, what I normally do, and this is definitely going to need another thing of beef stock as well. So again, now we're up to about here. I got a few more things to do, and it's going to put it way higher. We were talking all things lima beans yesterday. This is the first time in my life that I have ever bought a can of lima beans, and I bought them just to talk about them because I've never had them before. I don't eat a lot of canned vegetables because we watch our salt. My husband's type 1 diabetic. We watch our sodium, so I usually buy fresh or frozen. And that's why I have nothing against canned vegetables. You know, if that's what you need, that's what you want, have at it. Enjoy them, buy them, eat them. If that's what you want, that's awesome. God, I love you. My husband just sneaked down to the basement and got me some beef stock. So that's good. Perfect. Thank you. All right. So I've got this can of lima beans. I don't know what else I would do with it. So when you don't know what to do with it, throw it in soup, right? So I'm going to drain them. And then, okay, we're going to pop those in there. Ta-da! Rinse that out when we're done. There's that. And then I always put a fair amount of mixed veg. Sometimes if I'm making a really huge batch, I'll do a bag of each. Like I'll do a bag of peas and carrots, a bag of green beans, and a bag of peas. But I happen to have mixed vegetables, so those are going to go in. A lot of times I'll put that stuff in at the end, so the peas in particular are not mushy. But today we're going all in together. And then I'm going to do one more thing of beef stock. And that is going to finish out our soup for the day. And then, IT guy, can you come back and help me for just a sec? I'm going to put him to work. All right. Can you give me 30 seconds at half power, please. Point at 5, please. So hopefully things don't go wonky. Sometimes they do when I use the microwave. So, all right. Now, here's the thing. If I love really flavorful soup, we are making vegetable soup, vegetable beef soup. So if you are someone who, I like a lot of flavor in my soups, if you like your soup a little lighter, I like a hearty vegetable soup. If you want it a little on the lighter side, you can do what you want. That's the thing about vegetable soup. It's so adaptable. Some people love putting green peppers or red peppers in there. They like that flavor. Not my favorite, so I don't do it. I know people who put garbanzo beans or navy beans in there. It's more than a beef stew, actually. It's Bill. Yeah, Bill, it's more than, yeah, vegetable beef, definitely. No potatoes. So do it at 50 for a minute. Let's see, 40. Do 40. See what we get. 40 seconds at power level 5. Yeah. So this is one that's going to be really simple, really easy, and fairly quick. Once we get I'm using chocolate chips, and Ghirardelli would probably be the easiest to melt, to be honest. They're a really good melting chocolate. I had Nestle's left over from the holidays, and if you work with chocolate chips a lot, you know they last for a couple of years. So, Bill, I used to love barley in my vegetable soup. Sadly, barley has gluten in it, and I don't eat gluten because Gluten and I are not friends anymore. For some reason, it doesn't like me anymore, especially my stomach. All right, so yeah, that's good. Okay, so look, sometimes you don't need fancy stuff. You know what's going to need to go for 20 more seconds. I'm all about, like when I make my deviled eggs, I use a decorator. Makes it go really, really fast. Um, and I love using that stuff, but some days you just want it to be quick and easy. And today we want it quick and we want it easy. So I'm going to pop this stuff into the sink. I'm going to move this out of the way. That's going to be dinner. It's going to be Korean beef and broccoli. Looking forward to that. Just going to kind of move everything out of the way. So when we do this next part, it'll be right here. Okay. Are we good and squiggly now? Squishy. All right. Yes, it's all melted. All right. Today is, believe it or not, and you can look it up. You can check me on it because it is. Today is National Chocolate Covered Cashew Day, believe it or not. All right. I don't know why I put this on my left hand. It needs to go on my right. If you don't have one of these, you need one. Gloves are awesome. So I'm just going to make this quick and easy. I cut the tip. I put it in a sandwich bag. And we melted it. And we're just going to go to town on it. This will be dessert for me for this evening. I love raw, unsalted cashews. And that's what I'm going to use. If my son wants some, I will probably add some flaky salt to that because I think he likes a little bit of salt on his. So, but sometimes a treat can be as fast as literally a minute or two in the microwave. And Bob's your uncle. So, I didn't want them completely covered, so I'm good with what I've got. And you know, it isn't the prettiest thing in the world, but who says it has to be, right? So almost lost it, but there you go. We're gonna let that cool. Do you want salt on yours? Okay. So if you wanted to, and you wanted to do this like in a bowl, you could throw in some dried cranberries if you want a little bit of tartness to it. What else could you do? You could add other nuts if you wanted, but like I said, it's chocolate covered cashew day. So crazy how specific that is. Tomorrow is National Jelly Bean Day. And because I really don't have a recipe for jelly beans, because of one of the people that we've watched, or one of the people that we've been watching, her name is Ella, and she's from Great Britain, and she asked me to make a jelly cake for her. And so I think I found a way I can do that and make it gluten-free. So tomorrow we are going to make a version of British jelly cake. Hopefully I get it right. But if not, we're going to have fun watching me make all the mistakes. So we're going to make an almond cake. We're going to make a jelly top. And what they call jelly, we call jello or gelatin. So at least that's what I'm getting from it. So we're going to be doing that tomorrow. We'll be back at the same time, about 3:30 in the afternoon. This stuff's going to have to cook for a couple of hours before I can even taste it, but I can tell you from the smell already that it's going to be good. It never tastes exactly the same each time because I add little different things. Like this time it has lima beans in it, but the base is always about the same. We started, like I said, somebody said, do I need that big of a pot? It's up to about right here now. So we will put the lid on it. We will let it simmer away for about an hour, and then we'll give it a try. So, yes, Christy, I am currently going live every day. Tomorrow, like I said, is the cake. Thursday, we're gonna do some picnic items. So if somebody wants to send me a private message of something you'd like to see gluten-free, I'd be happy to make it. And I can't remember what we're doing on Friday. So, I'll have to figure that out, but I'll let you know tomorrow. I'll try to keep you at least a day ahead. So anyway, tomorrow we're making cake. So I hope you guys will come back. I'll be back at 3:30 Eastern time if you're in my zone. If not, there's a time converter, and I am on the same time as Detroit. So if you convert from US Detroit, you'll get what your time is. So anyway, I'm glad you're having a lovely time, Christy. I love talking. I love talking all things food, and finding out about what other people eat and all that. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I hope whatever you eat makes you happy today. And I will see you guys all tomorrow. Have a good one, y'all. Love y'all. Bye bye.